We notice some stories by the sound they do not make. No shouting in a hallway, no frantic calls. Just a room where decisions slide across a clipboard like routine, even when the person in the bed cannot lift a hand to stop them. Maya Sterling mattered to us because what nearly happened to her was not an accident that turned cruel. It was a choice, made calmly, by the people who were supposed to want her alive. And then the room became hers. I woke up to the steady beep first, not dramatic, just stubborn, like it had been there a long time and didn't care whether I was ready. My throat felt wrong, dry, heavy. I tried to swallow and nothing worked the way I expected. My eyes opened halfway and the ceiling lights were too bright, even through my lashes. A voice near my left shoulder. She's showing more response. Right side first. Another voice, closer, low, and controlled. How long until the window closes if we don't escalate? I couldn't turn my head. I couldn't lift my hand. But I knew that voice like I knew my own name. My father didn't sound scared. He sounded like he was running a meeting. Doctor. Barrett stood at the foot of the bed, his shoulders set. Mr. Sterling, we have a narrow window. We should move her to surgery and start the protocol. My father leaned in just enough that I could smell his cologne. Clean, expensive, familiar. Define narrow. Hours, not days. Risk. There's always risk. He made a small sound, the kind he used when someone brought him a number he didn't like. If we wait until morning, is it still viable? It's less viable. That delay can change outcomes. My father's breath stayed even. I'm asking for clarity. I'm not authorizing anything tonight. A chair scraped. Someone shifted closer to the side rail. A woman's voice? Steady. I'm Rebecca Sloan. I'm here as Maya's medical advocate. My father paused like he hadn't expected anyone else to speak. I don't remember authorizing that. You didn't? Doctor. Barrett looked relieved for a second, then cautious again. Miss. Sloan has the documentation. It's been verified by our legal team. My father's gaze moved. Slow. Fine. Then you can listen while we make responsible decisions. Responsible. That word landed like it belonged to a different room. Doctor. Barrett tried again. She has a strong chance with escalation. My father angled his head. We shouldn't bankrupt the system on hope. The silence after that felt heavier than any machine. We've heard a lot of people speak in rooms like this. The ones who are scared tend to fill the air. The ones who are calculating don't need to. My eyes stung, not from tears. From effort. I forced a breath through my nose and tried to make my body move. Nothing. Rebecca came closer, her hand settling on the bed rail. Maya's chart shows she has excellent coverage. This isn't about the hospital. My father let out a quiet laugh, like she'd made a sweet mistake. Coverage isn't the same as cost. Doctor. Barrett's jaw tightened. You're refusing escalation. I'm delaying it. Until we have full review. Rebecca's tone didn't change. I want that stated clearly in the notes. Put whatever you want. A door opened somewhere behind them. Footsteps. Another voice. Younger. Familiar in a different way. Ethan. Dad, my brother murmured. How bad is it my father didn't look at him? It's manageable. Doctor. Barrett spoke to Ethan like he mattered. Your sister needs surgery. Tonight. Ethan moved closer to my bed. I felt the faint pressure of his hand on my forearm, like he was trying to prove something to himself. Maya, he whispered, if you can hear me. Just hang on. My father cut in. Ethan, we're not doing emotional theater. Rebecca's voice softened. Just a touch. Ethan, step outside with me for a moment. I'm staying. My father turned then, eyes sharp. You want your position when this company expands, or you want to argue with me in an intensive care unit. Ethan went still. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab his sleeve. I wanted to sit up and tell them all to get out. My eyelids fluttered. That was all I had. Rebecca leaned down near my ear, careful, like she was talking to someone who might break. Maya, if you're in there, keep pushing. Don't stop. My father's voice again, already moving on. Doctor, have administration draft the delay order. Ms. Sloan can have a copy. Ethan can witness. My brother exhaled, shaky. Dad. Maybe we should sign? Somewhere in the room, paper slid on paper, a pen clicked. If this story follows you, stay with us. Not for spectacle. For the moment, people like Victor Sterling forget the bed is not a ledger. My lungs worked a little deeper. My vision steadied for half a second. I couldn't lift my head, but I knew one thing with perfect clarity. They thought I wasn't listening. I didn't sleep after that. Not really. I drifted in and out, the way you do when your body is doing work without asking your permission. Every time I surfaced, something small was different. A new bag on the IV pole, a nurse switching out gloves, the clock on the wall advancing in quiet jumps. Rebecca came back just before dawn. She pulled the chair closer to my bed and sat without touching anything, like she didn't want to disturb the fragile illusion my father had created. You're doing better than they expected, she murmured. Don't try to talk yet. I blinked once. It felt like lifting a brick. She leaned in. They issued a delay order. Temporary. Signed by administration. My chest tightened, shallow and sharp. I know, she added quickly. I objected. It's on record. Everything is. Footsteps approached. Shoes that didn't rush. My father stopped at the foot of the bed and folded his hands like he was waiting for a report. Any change overnight? Improvement, Rebecca answered. Enough that escalation still matters. Still, he echoed. That's the word doing a lot of work. Doctor, Barrett stepped in behind him, hair rumpled, tie loose. We're burning time. My father glanced at the chart, then at me. His eyes didn't linger. She's stable. Stable isn't the same as safe. Ethan hovered near the door. He looked tired. His shirt was wrinkled in a way that meant he'd slept in it. Come here, my father told him. Ethan took 2 steps forward. Stopped. My father lowered his voice, but not enough. This isn't personal. It's stewardship. Rebecca shifted in her chair. You keep using that word. It applies. Doctor. Barrett crossed his arms. So does negligence. The air tightened. I tried to move my fingers. Nothing happened, but the effort left me dizzy. Ethan's voice cracked, soft. Maya wouldn't want us to rush. Rebecca turned to him. You don't know that. My father raised a hand. We're not debating her wishes. We're managing risk. Rebecca stood. Her trust explicitly states that document is about money. My father cut in. Not medicine. My pulse thudded in my ears. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream. All I could do was breathe. Doctor. Barrett stepped closer to the bed. I'm documenting my objection again. Do that, my father replied. I'll speak with the board later this morning. Ethan swallowed. Dad, do you need me to? Yes? The word landed hard. Rebecca met my eyes. Just for a second. Her expression didn't promise comfort. It promised patience. They filed out one by one. The room felt smaller without them. Rebecca sat back down. They think time works for them. My eyelids fluttered. The effort burned. She nodded, like she understood exactly what I meant. Rest. Let them think that. The monitor kept its stubborn rhythm. By the second morning, they'd taken the breathing tube out. My throat burned when I tried to swallow, like I'd scraped it raw on gravel. A nurse held a cup of ice chips to my lips and told me to take my time. I nodded. That was easier than speaking. Rebecca stood near the window, phone tucked under her arm. She watched the hallway more than she watched me. When the nurse left, Rebecca came closer. Can you squeeze my hand? I did. Weak, but real. Her shoulders dropped. Just a little. Good. Don't rush anything. They're watching. I closed my eyes. The room smelled like disinfectant and coffee that had gone cold. Somewhere down the hall, a cart rattled. Doctor. Barrett came in mid-morning, hair still a mess. He didn't look at the chart first. He looked at me. You're tracking. I whispered. It came out rough. That's enough. He pulled the curtain halfway. Not all the way. We lost time last night. Rebecca's jaw set. Doctor. Barrett continued. Careful. The protocol still helps. Less than yesterday. More than tomorrow. Footsteps paused outside. My father's voice filtered in, low and confident. I told you we'd review after rounds. Doctor. Barrett opened the curtain. We are reviewing. My father stepped in with 2 administrators I didn't recognize. Their badges swung when they stopped. He glanced at me, then back to the chart. Any deterioration? No. Doctor. Barrett replied. But delay has consequences. Everything has consequences. Rebecca shifted her weight. You're choosing which ones you can live with. My father smiled like she'd misunderstood something basic. I'm choosing stability. One of the administrators cleared his throat. We've prepared an updated plan. Limited escalation. Conservative approach. Rebecca leaned forward. Put it in writing. It is. Send it to me. My father lifted his hand. Rebecca, we've had this conversation. She didn't move. We're having it again. Ethan hovered near the door, half in, half out. He looked at me and tried to smile. It didn't land. Hey, he said softly. You scared us. I watched his hands. He kept rubbing his thumb against his ring. A habit from childhood when he wanted to disappear. I'm okay, I said. It wasn't a lie. It wasn't the truth either. My father checked his watch. We'll revisit this afternoon. Doctor. Barrett's voice stayed steady. I'm noting continued objection. Of course. They left as they came. Quiet. Organized. Rebecca sat on the edge of the chair again. The accident didn't change him. I swallowed. No. She nodded. It gave him room. I stared at the ceiling. The light hummed faintly. In the hallway. Someone laughed. A short burst. Then nothing. My fingers tingled. Faint but present. I focused on that. On the small things that still answered me. Time. I realized wasn't neutral here. It was being used. By afternoon, they'd moved the conversation into smaller rooms, not the ICU, offices with soft chairs and neutral art, like the building itself didn't want to be associated with what was happening. I stayed where I was. That was the rule. Rest. Observe. Don't provoke. Rebecca came back with a paper cup of water and a straw that bent at the wrong angle. She adjusted it without asking. They're calling it a review, she said quietly. Ethics, administration, risk management. I took a slow sip. My hands shook more than they should have. Doctor, Barrett's pushing, she added. They're pushing back. A knock. Then the door opened before anyone answered. My father stepped in, jacket off now, sleeves rolled, like this was a long day and he'd settled into it. Maya, he said, finally looking at my face. You're awake. I murmured. He nodded. Good. That helps. Rebecca didn't move. Helps who? He smiled at her the way he did when someone insisted on being difficult. Everyone. Doctor. Barrett followed him in, holding a folder tight against his chest. We need to talk in front of her. My father gestured around the room. We are... Doctor. Barrett set the folder on the counter. Every hour we wait increases risk, and every hour we wait gives us clarity. Clarity about what? My father's voice stayed calm. About whether escalation is truly warranted. Rebecca crossed her arms. You've had clarity since last night. He turned to her. You're advocating. I respect that, but I'm responsible for more than one patient. Doctor. Barrett's mouth tightened. She's not a line item. My father exhaled slowly. Nobody said she was. Silence filled the space between them, the kind that settles when no one wants to be the first to push again. I felt my pulse in my neck, stronger than before, still uneven. A woman I didn't recognize stepped in behind my father. Hair pulled back, badge clipped straight. "We've prepared an interim plan." Rebecca leaned forward. "Read it." The woman glanced at my father. He nodded once. She cleared her throat. "We delay surgical escalation pending further observation. Continue conservative management, doctor." Barrett looked at me. "This isn't neutral." My father rested his hand on the back of a chair. "It's prudent." Rebecca's voice sharpened. "It's a delay." Yes. I closed my eyes for a second. When I opened them, Ethan was standing near the door again. He hadn't said a word. "Ethan," my father said without turning. "Come here." My brother stepped forward. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "You've reviewed the numbers." My father continued. "You understand what's at stake." Ethan nodded. Once. Rebecca turned to him. "This isn't about numbers." Ethan swallowed. "It's about timing, doctor." Barrett looked between them. This delay could cost her recovery. My father's voice dropped. Or save the system. I felt something hard settle in my chest. Not fear, recognition. Rebecca moved closer to my bed. "Maya, if you want to speak, I'm tired," I said. It was true enough. My father straightened. "Then we're done for now." The woman with the badge slid the paper onto the counter. A pen followed. It clicked softly when Ethan picked it up. I watched his hand hover, shake, then press down. Ink met paper. No one rushed. No one raised their voice. They left in order. The door closed. The monitor kept going. Rebecca didn't say anything for a long moment. She just sat there, eyes fixed on the page they'd forgotten on the counter. "Delay," she finally said. "They always pretend it isn't a choice." My fingers twitched. This time, they moved. Not much. Enough. Ethan came back alone that evening. No jacket this time. Just his tie loosened, collar open like he'd given up on pretending the day was under control. He stopped just inside the door and waited, like he needed permission. "You can sit." I told him. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. He pulled the chair close but didn't use it. Stood there instead, hands in his pockets, rocking slightly on his heels. The room light caught the faint shadow under his eyes. "Dad asked me to check on you." "Of course he did." Ethan winced. I wanted to anyway. I nodded once. My fingers were warmer now. Still weak, but warmer. I focused on that instead of his face. He cleared his throat. "You scared everyone." "Did I?" "Yeah." A pause. "Me?" That landed softer than I expected. He stepped closer to the bed, then stopped himself. "You know he's under a lot of pressure." "I know. He's trying to protect what he built." I turned my head enough to look at him. "And you." His mouth opened, then closed. He looked at the floor, then back up. "I'm not ready." For what? For him to be wrong. Silence stretched. The monitor filled it without caring. Rebecca's voice drifted in from the hallway. Low, controlled. She stopped short when she saw Ethan. Didn't interrupt. "I saw the paper." I said. "The delay order." Ethan's shoulders stiffened. "Dad said it was temporary." "You signed it." He rubbed his thumb against his ring again. Same habit. Same tell. They needed someone from finance. "Because you understand risk." "Yes. And because it wouldn't be him." Ethan swallowed. "If I didn't sign, someone else would have." I let that sit between us. My chest tightened, then eased. "Do you remember Mom's office?" I asked quietly. "The one with the glass wall." He nodded. She hated it. She said it made her feel like she was always on display. He gave a short, humorless laugh. Dad loved it. I watched him shift his weight again. You didn't look at me when you signed. Ethan's eyes flicked up, then away. I couldn't. Rebecca stepped fully into the room now. That matters. Ethan turned to her, then back to me. His voice dropped. I thought you wouldn't hear. I thought you weren't in there anymore. I closed my eyes for a second. When I opened them, he was still standing there. I said. He nodded once, then again. Smaller. I know, he whispered. The chair stayed empty. By the next morning, the room felt different. Not lighter, just alert. Like something had shifted and everyone could feel it, but no one wanted to name it. Doctor. Barrett came in early. No folder this time, just a tablet tucked under his arm. He pulled the curtain most of the way and leaned in close enough that I could see the crease between his eyebrows. You're tracking conversations, he said quietly. I remember names. That's more than we documented yesterday. Rebecca was already there, standing by the sink, washing her hands longer than necessary. She didn't look at either of us. Doctor, Barrett continued, careful. Can you tell me where you are? In the hospital? Which one? I hesitated on purpose. Let the pause stretch just a beat too long. The one Dad runs. Rebecca's head lifted slightly. Doctor. Barrett didn't smile, but something eased in his posture. Good. Don't do anything impressive. I wasn't planning to. He nodded, satisfied. I'll note incremental improvement. Nothing dramatic. Thank you. He met my eyes. You understand what that buys you. I did. Time, space, leverage. After he left, Rebecca crossed the room and closed the door. She didn't sit. She leaned against the counter instead, arms folded, waiting until she was sure we were alone. You heard everything, she said. Yes. Even when they thought you didn't. Yes. She took a breath. The delay order is still active. Your father's pushing for temporary financial conservatorship. I let that settle. My chest felt steadier today. Still sore, but mine again. And Ethan. He's cooperating. With who? With your father. With me. With himself. Depends on the hour. I looked at my hands. They weren't shaking now. Not much. I flexed my fingers slowly, like I was testing new ground. They think I'm not all the way back. I said. Rebecca watched me carefully. You could correct that. I could. And you're choosing not to. Yes. She nodded once. No judgment. Just alignment. Then we need to be consistent. I know. There was a knock. Soft. The kind meant to be polite. My father stepped in alone. No jacket again. Tie replaced. He looked at me longer this time. You're more alert. Am I? Enough to understand we're doing this for your own good. Rebecca stayed where she was. Silent. My father moved closer to the bed. The doctors say recovery is unpredictable. I've heard. We're protecting you from bad outcomes. I let my eyes drift, unfocused on purpose. I don't understand the papers. He relaxed. I could see it. The smallest release in his shoulders. That's all right, he said gently. You don't have to. After he left, Rebecca finally sat down. She didn't smile. They believe the version of you that helps them most, she said. I stared at the ceiling, at the faint crack near the light fixture I hadn't noticed before. Let them, I said. My fingers curled into the sheet. Stronger this time. Enough to hold on. They moved me out of the ICU 2 days later. Same floor, quieter room, fewer alarms. It looked like progress. It felt like permission. A nurse with soft hands helped me into a chair by the window. She tucked a blanket around my legs and asked if the light was too bright. It's fine, I told her. I let my words drag slightly, like they had to travel farther than they used to. She smiled and adjusted the blinds anyway. Rebecca arrived mid-morning with a tote bag instead of her briefcase. She set it down and pulled out a pair of reading glasses I'd never seen her wear before. "You don't need those," I said. She put them on. "I do today." We sat in silence while she flipped through a magazine, turning pages too slowly. When the door opened, she didn't look up. My father stepped in with two men in suits. They both smiled at me like I was a presentation slide. "Maya," my father said. "How are we feeling?" "Tired," I replied. I let my gaze drift past him, unfocused. One of the men leaned forward. "We're just here to make sure everything's being handled smoothly." Rebecca glanced up over her glasses. "Handled how?" "Supportively," the man said. "Given Maya's current limitations." I frowned, like the word had landed wrong. Limitations. My father's hand settled on the back of my chair. "Light, possessive. It's temporary." The second man nodded. "We'll need signatures at some point. Nothing urgent." Rebecca closed the magazine. "Define urgent. Routine authority. Financial oversight. Just until Maya's stronger." I rubbed my temples, slow and clumsy. "I don't like paperwork." My father squeezed my shoulder. "You don't have to worry about it." Rebecca tilted her head. "She doesn't have to sign anything today." "Of course not," my father said. "We're just planning ahead." They left with promises and smiles. The door clicked shut behind them. Rebecca took the glasses off. "They're preparing the conservatorship filing," I figured. "They think you won't notice." I stared out the window. Cars moved in neat lines below. Everyone going somewhere on purpose. "Doctor, Barrett cleared me for physical therapy." I said. "Good. And cognitive testing." She raised an eyebrow. "How'd you do?" I forgot the date. Mixed up left and right. Got my own job title wrong. Rebecca watched me carefully. "On purpose." "Yes." She nodded once. "Then we stay consistent." A knock interrupted us. Ethan stepped in, holding a coffee he hadn't touched. "Hey," he said. "Dad sent me." "Of course he did." Ethan smiled weakly. "You seem better. Some days." He hesitated, then held up the coffee. "I forgot how you take it. That's okay." He stood there a moment longer than necessary. "They're flying to Las Vegas next week." "For the conference?" "Yeah." I turned back to the window. "Tell him I'm not ready to travel." Ethan nodded. Relief flickered across his face before he hid it. After he left, Rebecca exhaled. "They're underestimating you. They need to." She picked up her bag. Then we let them. I rested my head against the chair. Outside, the traffic light changed. Green, then red. Right on schedule. They wheeled me into the ballroom from a side entrance, past service doors and stacked chairs. No red carpet, no announcement, just a quiet slide into the front row, where my father wanted me. Las Vegas looked the same from inside as it did on screens. Soft lights, low music, people smiling like they'd already decided how the day would end. Ethan walked beside the chair, hands hovering, unsure whether he was supposed to help. Rebecca stayed a few rows back, a slim folder tucked under her arm like it weighed nothing. My father took the stage on time. He always did. Jacket buttoned, voice steady. He talked about growth and integration and care models that sounded humane if you didn't listen too closely. I kept my eyes down, let my shoulders slump, played the version of myself they'd been feeding to the room. At minute 30-something, he gestured toward me. "My daughter's recovery reminds us why this work matters." Applause rolled through the room. Polite, warm, performative. I stood. The sound of the chair legs scraping cut through the clapping. It took a second for people to notice. Then another. The room quieted in waves. "Maya," my father said, smile still fixed. "You should sit." "I'm fine," I replied. Clear. No slur. No drag. Rebecca was already moving down the aisle. I walked to the stage without rushing, felt every step in my hips, my knees, the soles of my shoes. Pain was there. manageable, honest. "I'd like to clarify something," I said into the microphone. My voice carried. The room was built for it. My father's smile twitched. "Sweetheart." "You delayed my treatment," I continued, "not because it wasn't indicated, not because I didn't have coverage, but because time served you better than care." A murmur spread. Chairs shifted. Someone dropped a pen. Rebecca reached the stage and handed me the folder. I opened it slowly. "This is the delay order." Signed while I was unable to speak. "This is the objection filed by my attending physician. These are the notes documenting that my chances were strong and getting stronger." My father stepped closer. "This is inappropriate." I met his eyes. "This is accurate." I turned a page. "This is the plan to pursue temporary conservatorship while I was being assessed as impaired." "And this," I added, lifting the last sheet, "is the recording from my room, where delay was called stewardship." The word hung there. One of the men from Hartford stood. "We're suspending discussions." Another followed. "Effective immediately." My father's voice sharpened. "You can't do this!" Rebecca spoke from the edge of the stage. "They just did." Security shifted their weight. Unsure. Ethan stood up slowly, face pale. "Dad." My father looked at him. Really looked. "Sit down." Ethan didn't. I placed the folder on the podium. "I'm competent. I'm documented. And I'm done being quiet." The room stayed silent, not stunned. Processing. My father stepped back. For the first time, he didn't know where to stand. Later, after the lights dimmed and people left in clusters, Rebecca found me near the exit. "You okay?" I nodded. "Tired." She smiled faintly. "It's over." I glanced back once. My father was still on stage, talking to no one. I turned away. The hallway felt cool, steady, real. For the first time since the accident, time wasn't being used against me. I flew home alone, no press, no statements, just a window seat and a cup of coffee that tasted burned. My body still ached in places I couldn't name yet, but it was my ache. I slept the whole way and didn't dream. Rebecca met me outside baggage claim. She didn't hug me. She just walked beside me until we reached the car. "It'll take time," she said. "Not about the case. About me." "I know." Ethan texted once. "I'm stepping down." Nothing else. I didn't answer. Not because I couldn't, because I didn't need to. My father sent nothing. That silence felt deliberate, final. At home, I unpacked slowly, folded clothes I hadn't worn, set my shoes by the door. Ordinary things. I liked how small they were. That night, I stood in the shower longer than necessary and let the water hit my shoulders until my breathing evened out. No machines, no voices deciding for me. I realized something then. Not all at once. Just enough to name it. Maya Sterling didn't survive because she fought harder or planned better. She survived because she finally stopped waiting for permission to take up space in her own life. I sat on the edge of the bed and felt steady. Not victorious, just present. If this story stays with you, stay with us too. Quiet stories matter. We keep them here, exactly as they were lived,